My name is Kate Stobie. I'm the Director of Corporate Insights here at CECP. And my team is responsible for our fast track consulting work, which you can email insights with any question you might have. And Dawn and Armando and all of our wonderful team members answer your questions, slice and dice the data, and get you what you need to empower you and inform you in making decisions to help with headcount, budgets, program area allocations, you name it. If you answered it and giving it numbers, we can give you data on it, and then some. So I am here to talk through a couple slides of questions that we typically get asked, and then how we answer them with the data, before I bring up our panelists to talk through how they're using data in their workplaces to help inform strategies and decisions and inform leadership around why they're making the decisions and the recommendations that they make. So I hope this works. Yep. Okay. So you saw Sarah this morning give some details and early glimpse of our Giving in Numbers 2023 data. But this is an example of how we can give a company longitudinal information on percent of pre-tax profit, a direct cash from their giving for multiple years compared to multiple industries, revenue tier, all companies. So the company can really gauge, okay, my pre-tax profit was really high in 2018, percentage of giving, and then it's gone down over the years. Where is that in relation to all companies, my main industries, and my revenue tier? So just a really good example of the long-term studies we can provide you, since our data set does date back to 2001. And some of you, maybe you're in the room, have filled it out since then. So we can give you some really good data to help track your programs over time. Another one, matching gifts, is a very popular program to use in employee engagement. This is an example of a company who wanted to know what the median matching gifts were in comparison to all companies, their industries, and then a specific peer set. So we can also do, if you agree to disclose your data and your peers have agreed to disclose their data, we can give you exactly what those peers are doing in comparison to you. So again, you can benchmark, help you set your strategy, adjust your budgets, do what you need to do internally. And this is another one around average employee volunteer participation. I can get that word today. So the company was at 45%, and they wanted to know what the average participation rate was for their tier peers as well as specific peers for the average. And then we gave them top quartile as well, so who had the highest percentage of volunteer participation rate. I'm going to jumble myself all day there, so they can see, oh, wow, we're really high above the average compared to basically everyone else that we wanted to know about. And another one is volunteer time off. People ask us, we want to do a VTO policy. What's the average? What are people doing? And again, we can give that by industry. So this is the median as well as the top quartile, just an interesting look across that, how many hours. Apparently consumer discretionary gives a lot of volunteer time off. So we can give that to you as well. And then another one is a follow-up to that. Oh, I think this was a pulse survey. I'm sorry. A follow-up question was volunteer time off options offered by financial companies. Do not offer flexible time or paid release, 4%. Offers either flexible, scheduled, or paid release time, 33%. And the most popular was 96% offer either flexible scheduling or paid release time. So just to help, again, provide some context to how you're setting your strategies, your programs, your expectations internally around volunteer time off policies. And then this one is median full-time equivalent. So this was a staffing question. How many staff members should my team have? This is one way we can slice it. We have also looked at average grant portfolio size per full-time employee. Some interesting ways to help you say, hey, I need more staff because I'm like exponential in the budget that I manage, and I should really have 3 more people helping me out with this. But this company had 18 median full-time equivalents, so that's anyone working, like you all are in this room, not employees, compared to their different tiers. And this is total, Armando, can you help me out with this? I asked for clarification and then I forgot it. TC peer, I think is, what's TC peer again? Total cash peer, thanks Armando. So of the total cash giving peers who are giving between 50 and 100 million, how they rank among that. Again, median and then top quartile. And then this is a program area allocation breakdown slide. The company wanted to know how their program area giving compared to their peer set. And as you see here, if they ask for a peer and we either don't have the data or they did not agree to disclose it, we will not give them that information. Oh no, what did I do? I think I turned it off. Did I turn it off, Dawn? I too fervently pressed the button. Anyway, while we try to figure out how to get this slide back up, I would love to invite my panelists up to share a little bit about themselves, their companies, and then the business challenge or opportunity that they were facing and how they used data to address that. So ladies, if you'd like to come on up. I think it was my last slide anyway. So.
Where are we sitting?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, here, somebody's got to sit here.
I think Katie's gonna.
Okay. Well, let me make sure I'm not showing all my voluptuous cleavage.
You are hot mic. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Okay, so it was time to segue anyway. So Christine, would you like to introduce yourself, a little bit about your role, your industry, and then the business challenge or opportunity you leverage data to address?
Sure. My name is Christine Jordan. I work for Entergy Corporation. We're an electric utility company with customers throughout Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas. And I'm senior staff in corporate social responsibility. Have been working with that group for quite a while. Started out as their communication support person. And the business challenge that we initially tried to solve with data was we wanted to increase participation in our volunteer program. And at the time, we only, I think we may have had about 15,000 employees, and they were only logging about 11,000 hours a year. Fast forward, having used data and CECP for many years, we now put in over 115 to 20, I think that we're pushing there, 100-some thousand hours a year. And what we found in the data was that we were being too skimpy in terms of our dollars for doers and how much money we were willing to give for grants and with the number of hours. We were asking people to put in 100 hours to get a $250 grant. So we lowered that to 20 hours when we found that our peers were much more generous. We lowered it to 20 hours, and we would give up to $750 a year, 20 hours, 40 hours, 60 hours. And then our participation shot up. So thank you, CECP. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Heidi Magyar. I work with General Motors, who is a manufacturer of vehicles. And I realize I've gotten to the age now that I have to tell that to folks because I recently was at a dentist appointment and the young lady there said, "Oh, General Motors, do you do imports?" And I was like, no. No. So we produce Cadillacs and Chevrolets and Buicks and GMCs and Hummers. Those are some of our vehicles, and we have a wide range of almost 30 electric vehicles if folks are looking for that. But we were founded in 1908, and so we're almost a 120-year-old company. And in that journey, one of the hats I wear is our heritage for our company as well. So that's why I'm giving you a little background. In that journey of over 100 years, we have been very engaged in communities in different ways. But we are an old house with weird wiring, but the lights turn on. So we have sat within various departments. We have had foundations. We have had different kinds of engagement models throughout the years. But most recently in 2016, we changed our model from a foundation into a corporate giving process. And now, most recently in December, we moved from under our communications function over to HR and then global diversity. So in those steps, most recent history, we have really leaned on our partners at CECP and others to help pull this data of trends, information on what we can assess, what are some of our peers doing in the business, so that we can really kind of align and push our giving and our engagement forward. Because if you think about it, for volunteerism alone, in 2014, our employees just showed up wherever. So we wanted to target how we did that. So we're fairly new on the journey of really collaborating and bringing a lot of this work all together under one piece of the business. And so to do that, to talk to our senior leaders, to talk to our business functions, we've really had to rely on data. On a company that has so many engineers, we've got to have the data to analyze and to present and to really share the reason why we have to be moving in the direction that we're going in. So that's how we've used data.
Excellent. Vicki.
We have a lot in common. Hi, I'm Vicki Glazar. I am the managing director of the GE Healthcare Foundation. If you know about General Electric Company, it's a very old company, very old house. GE Healthcare is a new company, separated from GE in January of 2023. So the interesting thing is we have all the old plumbing and all the old systems, but we're saying, oh, now we're a new company. So we're going to leave some of that behind. Some of that is going to now be tailored to who we are, our identity as an individual company. So I was brought on shortly after the company spun off in May of 2023 to really sort of do two things. It ultimately is more than two things, but do two primary things. Number one is create a corporate social responsibility strategy. And then to do that, I had to create corporate social responsibility programming because our communications strategy had to have something to talk about. So we sort of took it in chunks. The easiest thing to do, the company had already decided that it wanted to create a corporate foundation. So that was the easiest thing to do. So I spent several months standing up a corporate foundation. And so how did I use data? You name it. I slept with giving in numbers under my pillow. I memorized just about every page. I did a lot of homework. We had to do a lot of benchmarking. I was new to the company. I was brought in, to do this by somebody who was also relatively new to the company, so I was unknown. And I don't have a lot of credentials behind my name, so I really needed that credibility. Here are my resources. Here's where I'm coming from. It's not just me talking to you. It's all of these credible resources. So I used giving in numbers. I used CECP's corporate foundations. I used information from CyberGrants and Blackbaud. Everything that I could get my hands on from the healthcare community. I did an advanced advisory with CECP, and researched everything from, what are our peer companies giving? In what ways are they giving? What are their foundations doing? What are their corporate giving organizations doing? Where are they volunteering? What are their FTEs? I mean, you name it. I had to come up with every single data point. And Carrie actually gave me some really good advice. I wanted to vomit up every data point that I had researched and say, look how much I know about this. But she said, give them the top quartile, give them the median, and don't confuse people. So that's sort of it in a nutshell.
Awesome. And as a follow-up, Heidi, in conversations, you talked about your Oprah moment. And I would love for you to elaborate on that and talk about how you leverage data in that situation.
Well, the Oprah moment, again, dating myself here, but some of you may have remembered or seen it in replays. You know, she was at one of our facilities. She had toured one of our facilities. We were producing Pontiacs at the moment. And we had a partnership with her in one of her shows, and it was like, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. Well, that has lived on and on and on. And so we're in the middle of this reimagining our focus areas right now. And so this is very real-time discussion. And we're in with senior leaders, and the discussion is, well, let's just go big. Like, let's just give more. And if you've probably, I can see nods around the room that you've had this conversation with a leadership group, that it's not always about writing the bigger check. There has to be some relationship building, there has to be some development. Not all nonprofits can accept the same level of dollars and execute the same kind of project. So it's not just that Oprah moment of like, you get a car, you get a car, you get it, and it's all happy and good. So it's reeling that back and saying, well, that was a great marketing event, but let's talk about the philanthropic giving that's behind that, and how, if we have these goals, and these goals align with the gold source that we call it of CECP's data, how are we going to be most impactful in the space, be good fiduciaries and stewards of the dollars that we have been graciously given, to make the biggest measurable impact.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And so I'd love for you three to elaborate on the specific data points you leveraged in your organizations, and what the impact was of that in making your strategic decisions, if you can. I shared several data points up here, but I know in our prep call you all talked about those specifics and what questions did they help you answer or support.
I can start. Basically, it's where do we need to be in comparison to our peers and competitors in our global corporate citizenship? How do we need to be giving? What kinds of programs do we need to have for our colleagues? What is more appropriate to do from corporate giving? What does it make sense to do from the corporation? And how should we use our foundation? So ultimately what we decided was, and I'm sure this is similar to other strategies, the foundation is global. It has tackled one very specific issue. And then in terms of corporate giving, we are centered where our largest employee bases are, understanding the needs of those communities and giving back in that way, very tightly integrating volunteerism with community engagement, so that we can tell a holistic story. And so that's basically where we landed with the data that I used.
I would say we've used CECP data for a few different things, but so with the volunteerism case, again, it was the number of hours, the minimum number of hours that employees or retirees had to put in order to get a $250 grant. But over the years, we have used, and CECP was not the only source for that. We also got information from Points of Light, but primarily it was CECP. We've used CECP over the years to defend our budget, which nobody's ever had to defend their budget before, right? And also to defend the number of staff that we have, you know, as the company has gone through reorgs. We either fortunately or unfortunately have always been able to point to CECP data and say, we have basically less than half the number of employees of our peers. So we really can't be cut anymore if you want us to continue to perform. So number of FTEs was one data point that we've used over and over. Also percentage of giving, specifically percentage of total cash giving, is something that we use every year in either trying to increase our budget, which we've done successfully, that was back in the day, or maintain our budget, or at least not get cut further for the couple of times that we've gotten cut.
Excellent.
So for us, just like Christine, probably the most recent two cases that we've really used the data is We are on a walk to 1% of giving for pre-tax dollars that we took to our board of directors 3 years ago. And we're then assessing it on like a 3-year rolling average. That's how we set our budget to increase. So we relied really heavily on not only CECP data, but we also pulled from giving in the US, and then we've also used Points of Light as our kind of our trifecta of data that we gather. So the 1% track, and then most recently with our move from communications into the DE&I space, we really use that to talk about how the data shows that our part of the business sits 25% of the time in comms and another maybe 25% of the time in HR, and then the other 50% it's under public affairs or marketing or another space. So we use that to talk about why are we moving into this space, and then we also used that data to talk about full-time employees to do this work. Just like many other companies over the last year and a half, General Motors went through a lot of what we call transformation, where we had a large number of employees take retirement. There were some retirement packages. We also lost a lot of just in the economic times reducing. So we had been reducing, and you have this 1% track of increasing. So we had to right-size the organization and really take that forward, and using the full-time employee number along with the percentage of portfolio that an individual is expected to manage in relationship. That's the number that we were looking at that we used.
Excellent. And I'd like to dive in, because several of you have mentioned talking with others within your organization about your programs, to keep your budget, to keep headcount, to right size, to create program strategy. What does it look like when you go into those conversations with your boards of directors, with your senior leaders, and you have the data to back it up? Does that change the conversation, or what is their reaction when you go in with data behind your decisions and recommendations?
You can start.
I'll just say we were shocked when we put forward our board presentation, because for us this was huge to do a 1% walk. It went out into a mail out to our board and to the group, and they looked at it and they had no comment, and it just was a check the box and it was done. And we were all like floored, but they had the data. They looked at the 3 slides and went, sounds good. And we were like floored on that one, but it was because they were very concise. We had all the metrics, we had the comparisons that they were looking for. We'd done our pre-work, we gathered what we needed to do, and sometimes the data just speaks for itself, and don't be hindered or scared of it, I guess is one of my points.
Yeah. I had a similar experience with the very senior levels, so the C-suite, the foundation board of directors didn't have a lot of questions. They were really bought in from the beginning. But where we had, and this was on the foundation side, we picked maternal infant health as the very specific focus for the foundation, and even specifically within that area, providing training around the use of technology to increase capacity of the healthcare workforce. And so everybody thought that was great, and we, many reasons for choosing that focus out of all of the things that we could have done, because GE Healthcare, makes ultrasounds and X-rays across all therapeutic areas. So we were good there. Where it came to really questioning the data and really having to have our sales pitch nailed down was with the GLT. Because the GLT had skin in the game in that, on the corporate giving side.
Can I pause and ask you to explain who the GLT is?
GLT is sort of the VP and above, like all of the leaders all across the company. And they had, the old plumbing. They were very entrenched in some of the giving that they did. And we don't even know what's going on ex-US. There's so much going on. In particular, we have a headquarters in Bouc outside Paris and one outside London. And they do so much and have done so much for decades. They're very passionate, and with good reason. They've had good impact over the years, tremendous impact. But they were part of a big engineering company, just one, part of it. And now we're a healthcare company through and through. And so there needs to be some change. And so we're trying to persuade them with data of why we need to be aligned in all of the things that we do with our corporate purpose. And they're questioning, where'd you get that information? Are you sure that's true here? So we're getting a lot more skepticism, a lot more work, and we're finding the need to really have our pitch nailed down with that group.
So I would say I chose to go last because I am filling in for our VP today. She has a conflict and can't come here. I am not usually the person who's in those meetings, but I can tell you from what she has told me, our senior leadership is very much focused on first quartile in what our peers or other companies that are first quartile, what they're doing. And so when she's able to show the data that this is what it takes to be first quartile, they're like, okay. Well, not okay, yes, we'll do that every single time. But sometimes it's okay, yes, we can do that. And sometimes it's like, well, we're striving to move that way.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to bounce off of that. Trust me, in the boardroom, the blue oval comes up more times than that's Ford, by the way. The blue oval comes up more times than mentioned, and so does Subaru Dogs and Parks. We love you. You're inspirational. That's not a criticism to any of that. But the other thing that we have to keep bringing forward to leaders is that there is no competition in community. There is enough community to go around for all of us. So we can look at all that data and we can look at all those trends. And yes, it helps us drive the business and the connection to the work that we have to do. But it's okay for all of us to be out in this space. And when it comes down to what we're trying to do is just improve the world for good. So don't lose sight of that.
Yeah, right. And if we have time, I'll piggyback on that one more time.
Okay.
Entergy is an electric utility company. We serve Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas. We've got customers in all of those states. Unfortunately, those are 4 of the poorest states in the country. We've got easily, on average, at least 25% of our customers living in poverty. And so one would think that would be an argument right there. And unfortunately, in our headquarter city of New Orleans, we've got very high poverty. So, and we're the only Fortune 500 company in the city. And sometimes we are the only Fortune 500 company in the state. So we have to show up big. And you would think that would be an argument enough right there. It's not. You got to have more data than that.
And so, Vicki, you especially talked about your GLT and coming to them with the data and really getting your pitch down. Have you ever been caught off guard by data points that they wish you'd had in those conversations?
Yeah.
And how did you get them?
I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing with you. I was like,
Yes, because they have reasons. So I'll take Milwaukee, which is where we have our largest employee base. Very big contributor to FIRST Robotics. Mm-hmm. And we learned throughout the course of time that the people who are pushing for the giving, are volunteering in the schools. They're their kids' schools. Mm-hmm. They're very passionate about it. Absolutely, they should be. That's their kid. But there's a misalignment there. This is not where the company's resources need to be going to remove barriers to health, right? We're about social determinants of health, getting people into the clinics, so addressing those issues outside of the clinic. These kids would have FIRST Robotics regardless of whether GE Healthcare was donating there or not. So they would come up with, did you know this fact? Did you know that fact? No, we don't know any of those facts. However, they understood the bigger picture. And and they're good-hearted people, they are very passionate about this because they want to help people. So once they understand it from another point of view, sort of something clicks and like, oh, you're right, that is our corporate purpose.
One thing we learned on our strategy development and the work that we did is once we had the data and once we had a clear connection to what things we were doing and how it linked back to the business purpose. For GM, 000 is our overarching charge. That's 0 crashes, 0 congestion, and 0 emissions. And so all of our work is laddering up, whether you're in engineering or you're in corporate giving, to try to go for that big audacious goal that we have as a company. And so once we could demonstrate to internal audiences and external how this aligns with our people, how the strategy aligns with our core direction as a company, and we could take the explaining out of it, it became very clear, even when we had to sunset things, even when we had to back out of, or change direction with partners and say, look, this is what we're working for, and they could clearly see the data and they could clearly see how it aligned. There was no argument. It was companionable. And some even changed the direction of the work that they were presenting to us for new partnerships. So I think just simplifying, having that clear fence makes really great neighbors, and the data helps us do that.
Excellent. Now, we've talked a ton about CCP data for reasonable reasons, right? We're here. But what other data sources do you all find super valuable as you go through this work? And data points, too.
I'll answer the first part of that question. For us, we use EEI, Edison Electric Institute, a lot because we're a utility company. So we use all kinds of data points from them. I'm sorry, I'm struggling to think of one particular one right now. Also, I mentioned Points of Light. We use their data particularly a lot with volunteerism. And I believe we used their data when we were doing some work on, we used their data and also CECP data in looking at skills-based volunteering and kind of what categories of skills companies are trying to get their employees to build.
Points of Light, again, is one that that we engage with very heavily on the volunteerism side for research and for understanding of some of the work that we're doing. CECP, and as I said, giving in the US. But we also, the conference board is another one that's a great resource I've found, especially over the years with COVID. They were weekly conversations in that. They were willing to do quick polls to audiences that I found was really useful if you quickly wanted to reach out to their audience and do a weekly check-in to find information on the work. And under the Chatham House rules, it was really easy to have some very open conversations with maybe folks that could be competitors in a peer set. So that was another great data check for us.
Yeah, I guess I'll add, we do a ton of research on needs around our communities and such, so government data, UN agency data. But I'll add along that line, members of CSR board, those Chatham House rules conversations are super helpful. And then other organizations, PQMD, which is an acronym that I can't remember, it's about quality medical donations. So, organizations within the healthcare sector that are organized around these principles are super helpful. That's one. Grant Makers in Health, other organizations like that, conference board too, yeah.
Excellent. And before, we're going to have some small table discussions in a couple minutes, but I wanted to open up to see if there were any questions from you all. We had one right away up here for our panelists on how they're using data.
Thank you. My question is on the impact of the giving that you're making. What data are you collecting or is requested on the impact of your programs?
Mine's easiest, so I can start first. I just got my grantees paid. We celebrated in the halls for getting those first grants out. So we're just starting. So initially we're going to be focused on reach the first year or two. So that's an easy answer.
For us, there are some basic ones that we collect all the time. We're looking at program reach. We're looking at efficiency of budget. We're looking at diversity of the outreach that they're doing. We also look at, when we're looking at assessing on the criteria, we look at the diversity of their board. We look at the diversity of their audience. Those are just some of the top that we look at, but when we get into specific programs, there could be how many teachers impacted, how many students. We can keep building out the data that we're collecting, but there's just, and I'm happy to get you more of that from our we use cyber grants. I think that's always helpful to tell platforms, because that's like the first question. Hi, how are you? My name is Heidi. What platform do you use? So we use cyber grants for our giving platform. We use Your Cause for volunteerism and employee giving, and we use Benevity for our awards and recognition system. We're an old house with weird wiring, guys. Just remember, that's the way it is.
Same here. Use exactly what you said, except for Benevity.
Yeah.
So you guys keep mentioning your old house with old wiring, and I'm like, have they been in my house?
I got an 1864 built house, so that's why I talk about weird wiring, because there is a light switch. I have no clue what it is.
Yeah, so that's my house. I was built around 1900. So, let's see. So impact. I would say, quite honestly, I think we do probably more reporting. We're just starting to get questions about impact. My colleague, Jennifer Glazar, who is right here, and she manages our foundation affairs, just started getting some really interesting questions from folks about, well, what is the impact of the money that we're giving? We had been tracking against the, of course now an acronym completely escapes me. In fact, the whole thing escapes me. United Nations Sustainability Goals. So we track a number of things there. I'm not really sure that it's going to speak to impact, though. But we do track the number of students that we expose to STEM activities. And we track the number of trees that are planted, and also the number of trees that are given away. Meals. Yeah, the number of meals that we serve, because again, we're in high poverty. And then we also track the number of industry recognized certifications that people get, as we're trying to help them work their way out of poverty and get family sustaining jobs. That's just a few.
So I have one go back to answer her question. We publish, in addition to our sustainability report, we report a corporate giving report. It's on the gm.com site, so that's where all of our impact numbers are listed. So if you want to check that out, you're welcome to.
I can give a slightly better answer too, since
Yeah,
So all of our programs have not only a reach component, the actual program reach, but they also have a research and an advocacy component. Awesome. So in terms of research, we're trying to add to the body of knowledge that exists. So just a real quick example, our program in Kenya is testing task shifting between trained sonographers and midwives. So at what point can they hand off a patient to a midwife? And the advocacy component of that program is midwives are not certified, cannot be certified as sonographers. You have to take all this certification in Kenya and many African countries. So we're advocating for change there so that we can help expand the capacity. So all of our programs have those two components as well.
Okay, we got a couple other questions. Oh yeah, who I think the Oh, okay.
FIFO, first in, first down.
I'll be really quick. Actually, my question is very similar on impact. Many of you talked about your volunteerism strategies. In that space and measuring impact, do any of you measure things beyond the employee satisfaction piece? For example, looking into how students perceive volunteerism, sort of the communities that your employees are interacting with. Just curious to understand some of the metrics maybe your companies are collecting in that space.
We introduced our CSR Connect Blackbaud platform in February. So we're just trying to get it populated with volunteer opportunities and things. We're very new in this journey.
I would say that the volunteerism piece, what we track is we track your normal hours, we track your normal time. Where we want to go and be better at tracking, I guess is how I'll approach it, is we want to connect our volunteerism to our workplace of choice survey so that we're working with our HR team so that then when the workplace of choice survey results come into our leaders, that we can run it against the individual identifiers. We don't know people, but the identifier numbers, and we can provide them with data around our highly engaged teams on the workplace of choice survey, also highly engaged teams when it comes to volunteerism, so that we can proof out that volunteerism is not just a nice to do for the business, but it's also a direct connect to retention, to learning, and to overall health of well-being of employees.
I would say for Entergy, in addition to looking at volunteerism and its impact on employee satisfaction and organizational health, the company is also, as part of the JD Power surveys that they get done, they do look at how much attention the community is paying to volunteerism and how often they recall seeing Entergy employees out in their communities.
Interesting. Okay, Armando.
Thank you. Back to impact for a question. We're actually just rebuilding our application and impact reporting right now, so I'm so curious. Do you have a dollar threshold for when you require impact reporting, whether it's for event support or program ongoing support? What is that dollar threshold and how do you determine it? Thank you.
That's a great question. We do. I don't know what the dollar, for me, I don't know what, it's like our smaller community impact dollars are kind of managed more locally and they're not required to submit and go, because a lot of times the smaller nonprofits don't have the ability or the staffing or the resources to complete all that paperwork that's required for them. So we back off of that. I want to say it's like under $10,000 that we don't have that, and then above, and but I can verify that for you. I'm sorry, I don't have that off.
And I think we might have asked that question and giving in numbers for 2022 data, so we can do some benchmarking. I just wanted to do a small shout out. In your app, in the survey field, there is the ability to request either previews or conversation or fast track consulting from CECP, and then we'll reach out to you after the summit to go through what you're looking for specifically. So I just wanted to shout that out. Instead of us trying to take all of your information, we can just come back to you after the summit as well. But I do believe we asked that specific question, and I think we've done some benchmarking.
She's got it.
I was just, to your question, and this is partly a shameless plug for what I'm talking about tomorrow, but we do track positive impact for each of the sectors in which we make grants, and we've had that externally assured by PwC. So I could talk about it for days. I'm happy to chat with you.
Any other audience? Oh, there's a question. There's two questions.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I have a question. I work for a global comms firm, and macro data that you've been using or find helpful when it comes to the business case for CSR, ESG, or DEI commitments, like kind of forecasting, next generational support, things of that nature?
Personally, I have not seen that data. I would not be surprised if our communications department didn't have it.
Same for me.
Yeah, I have to say that I was in the ESG world at Verizon prior to my last role, and the first time I ever heard, it was we were preparing for an annual meeting, and the first time I ever heard this unwokening stuff was so shocking to me, because I just never expected anyone to have a problem with, companies trying to identify risk and be more responsible. So it just never made any sense to me. So I don't have data, and never really thought to collect it because it just never made any sense to me.
Vicki, I think you shared one way to tackle this is be very specific, and that you have one focus area. I'm curious, as you guys look at employee giving and volunteering, do you limit the focus areas and the agencies that employees can give to, or do you have it open to all? That's kind of question one. And question two is, if it was open to all and now you have limited it, what has the result of that been?
Yeah, the result of that would not be good. No, we have a corporate giving, a matching program that matches donations across the board. So we use the Blackbaud platform, and there's millions, or 1 point something million or 3 million, I forget the number, of charities in there, and you can give to any of them that are, meet the 501c3 guidelines and all of that. However, I will say that what we are trying to do is funnel people toward our corporate purpose. And so we're really just kind of starting this work, and we're doing a lot of talking with folks around the organization and working with the colleague resource groups, we call them CRGs, to direct that giving and that volunteerism, so to tightly integrate everything together, direct their giving, direct their volunteerism into, we're saying social determinants of health. So we're saying food, housing, education, high quality healthcare for moms and babies, and safe spaces. And so we're asking people, and those are the things that we feature on the platform. So whereas, giving from a corporate giving standpoint was all over the place, and a lot of the volunteering that was organized was all over the place, for everything from Humane Society to, food drives and Ronald McDonald House and the whole thing. We're really highlighting and encouraging those things that are in line with our corporate giving strategy, hoping to move over time and recognizing that people are going to give to where they want to give.
Time for me to answer?
Sure.
I would say with Entergy, we have a big focus on trying to help our customers who are living in poverty try to get out of poverty. So we focus on basically all types of things that would help people get out of poverty. By them furthering their careers or being able to go get an education, get certification, affordable housing, things like that. But with our volunteer program, we have those grants that employees can and retirees can earn through volunteerism. They can give those matching grants to anything they want, anything whatsoever. Well, I'm sorry, it has to be charitable, but no particular program area. And then beyond that, we also have a matching educational gifts program, and those are geared towards high schools, colleges, and universities. And the only reason that we don't include elementary school and pre-K is because there just would be no way for us to meet the need of our employees or retirees.
So I'll just pipe in for different perspective for you. So our volunteer platform is open to our employees to create their own volunteer opportunities, and we allow them that flexibility within a framework to do so. We allow them to apply for our Dollars for Doers program for any of those vetted 501c3 groups. However, we do, when we coordinate volunteer projects, we coordinate them within our focus areas of STEM and safe transportation. When we grant matching dollars, we do not have an open matching program at this point, except for on the week of Giving Tuesday, we do a match campaign. We do team matches, so the model is that teams apply at the beginning of the year that they want to do a match campaign for a nonprofit that fits within our focus areas, and then we will match that team's money in those campaigns. A lot of times it's ERG groups or it's some other teams that have had some opportunity, because what we've found just in our small pilot, again, we're kind of new to this space on the matching front, is that people give more when they're in smaller groups for campaigns than they do on a big, broad set campaign. So that's why we're driving the matching to a team set, because most of the teams will meet their goal that we've agreed on as far as matching dollars.
If I could piggyback on
Yeah.
that for a second. As Vicki mentioned, it would not go over well to restrict how employees can give their dollars or direct their matchings. But we've incentivized our volunteers by taking one of our signature programs, which is volunteer income tax assistance sites. And for those employees and retirees who volunteer at those sites, because it helps with helping people get out of poverty, they get double the amount of volunteer matching dollars. So rather than having the potential to get $750 a year that they can give to whatever type of organization, charitable organization they want, they can get $1,500 a year and still get their $750 a year. So when we started doing that, our volunteer participation for those volunteer income tax assistance sites shot up, and it's been very successful.
Well, we've got a couple minutes left, and I know I talked about doing table discussions. Do we have any more final questions? There's-
I think that last point was amazing.
Yeah.
How do you determine,
How do you determine?
where you're focused there, like what qualifies?
Well, for us, I mean, it's pretty clear. We've got a lot of people in poverty, so anything that will help them out of poverty. Well, the earned income tax credit is one of the things that, we had done some research and we found that is a program that is incredibly successful in helping people get out of poverty. So 2/3 of our corporate social responsibility department is dedicated towards low-income initiatives. So that's anything from grants and volunteerism to how do we revise our billing system, what kind of programs can we do, what kind of any legal form of assistance that we can help our customers access. That's what we're trying to do. So that's a lot of what drives the decisions that we make. And then also, we are looking at what are the company's business objectives and what can we do to help the company and help the community at the same time.
That's fantastic. Great job.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 2 minutes left. And I wanted to thank you all for coming to the session. Thanks to our panelists. I want to leave you with a couple questions to ask your neighbor or ask your table mate at lunch. That is next if you'd like to continue the data conversation. What we were going to talk about in the small table groups were what are your go-to data points and trend data that you most often present or use to leaders and to influence decision making. So I will leave you with that question as a conversation starter during lunch, or now if you'd like to end as you walk out to your neighbor. So thank you all for attending, and I hope I'm going to give a plug out to the sessions that were chosen this morning for the Choose Your Own Adventure conversation around change management and corporate grant making. If any of you have any questions or want to have conversations with peers after lunch, that'll be me again. And so I look forward to seeing you all later. Enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you.